Hello, my positive posse. Welcome back to another video on Self-Mastery Mentor. My name is April Kudwa, and in this video, I am going to be going head-to-head with my friend Mary Cologne from her channel, Trademark Your Life, where we are going to be talking about how your inner circle affects your growth. So this is something we actually really love. We have been friends for a while now, and we're actually friends in college and then reconnected later on after college through this whole growth process, and so this is a topic we love. So Mary, is there anything you want to say? Introduce yourself before we get started.
Yeah, hi April. Thanks so much for having me in this collaboration with your channel. Like you mentioned, this is a topic that's really special to me and you, so I'm really excited to share our viewpoints and share our journey.
All right, so let's get started. I hope you guys enjoy. Hey guys, welcome back. In this collaboration video, as I told you before, we are going to be talking about how your inner circle impacts your growth, and this is something we both love. So there's actually a quote before we get started that I wanted to read to you guys from Clement Stone, and then we're kind of going to elaborate on that. So one of the things that he says in his quote is that you are a product of your environment. So choose the environment that will best develop you towards your objective. So Mary, first of all, do you agree with this quote? Yes or no? And if so, why?
Yeah, April, I definitely agree with that quote. And I think the main reason why is because I've seen it play out in my life before. You know, there have been times where my inner circle didn't really align with who I wanted to be and what I wanted to accomplish and where I wanted to go. And there, on the contrary to that, there have been other times where, you know, my inner circle has just been on the right track and been with people who also have the same vision for their life or a similar vision that I do. And I noticed, you know, from one friend group to another or one inner circle to another, that it's just a huge change, a drastic change compared to, you know, having a negative inner circle who's just not aligned with who you want to be.
And I can definitely say that's true. I know there was a period through college when I had certain friend groups that were always partying all the time and going out all the time, and it was very easy to be sucked into that and to, always be maybe going down the wrong path or doing the wrong thing too much, where in a way it affected schoolwork and vice versa. And so I can definitely agree with you that your environment is a huge factor and how your success is going to be, or whether it's influenced or not. So actually, it brings me to the next point, is that when I was a kid, actually growing up, my dad used to always tell me that you're a sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Do you think that's true? Yes or no? Because environment can be so many things. It can be, let's say someone's in college and they're living with certain roommates or in a frat or sorority house, and the environment is clean, like cleanly, and they have some people that are good, some people that are bad. But what about, let's really narrow it down to their main 5, because the main 5 might not be the ones they live with every day, but they're around all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, similar to kind of my answer in the last question, who you are surrounding yourself, no matter if you want to admit it or not, their habits and their behaviors are going to rub off on you, you know, because the words that they're speaking to you or the words that they're speaking around you and the thoughts that they're thinking, then turning those into words, into behaviors are eventually going to rub off on you whether you like it or not. You know, I mean, everything is energy and it's, you know, you're going to pick up little things here and there. And I think it's important to stand strong on your own so that doesn't happen, but it always isn't the easiest, you know, and no matter how hard you try to prevent it, these words are going to stick in your mind and these behaviors are going to stick in their mind. And you never know how they can come out in your own life. So you have to be really cautious and make sure that the 5 people that you're surrounding yourself with are people that you want to be around and people that you want to be like, because whether you like it or not, I think they are going to rub off on you.
I definitely agree. And I can think back on certain times where, in college I had certain roommates and certain friends who their behavior I noticed over time, I did start to replicate and did start to be like. And I remember even just the way I process things, my thoughts, my emotions, kind of went into the same pattern as theirs. I had one friend who was particularly like always filled in drama, always had the next thing or the next adventure or whatever, and that started to become what I wanted to do, how I wanted to live my life. And I noticed how much it actually affected me and distracted me from who I actually was deep down because I wanted to be a part of that. And I didn't realize I was even making those changes in my life. But, looking back 3 or 4 months afterwards, I'd be like, why are you out doing this stuff that was never anything you would have ever done? Or why are you hanging with these types of people? That's not something you would have ever done. And I had to notice and look at that direct link between who I was surrounding myself with. And even though that person wasn't someone I lived with, it was someone that I chose to be around a lot. And so by doing that, it then brought me into another path. And there was other times when I had roommates in college and they were maybe not as clean, and then I started to just not really care about doing the dishes or not really care about cleaning the house, and it affected me in so many ways. So I guess the next point that I have with that is, do you notice any times from your past when you look back on old friends or you look back on old situations where you weren't around a good group of 5 people or had a few bad apples that you had to make a change with?
Yeah, I don't know if I would put it on a number of how many people, but I think I just started to notice the outcomes that I was having in my life. Actually, when you were speaking on that last point, with the sum of 5 people, I would, just almost woke up one day and just like looked at my life and I was like, whoa, like I don't know if this is the path that I need to be on right now. I'm like, I know my grades can be better. I know I can be doing more as far as networking and finding internships or, just other small side jobs that are going to lead me to my future career plans and, or where my fitness and nutrition was and how I was feeling about myself. And so don't know if I would put a number on it, but there was definitely times where I, had friends and their lifestyle just, they wanted to party a lot more and they didn't really know how to balance it along with, developing their future, I guess you could say. So it started to rub off on me too. And so I'm glad that I kind of woke up and noticed that the outcomes of my life weren't exactly in line with how I wanted them to be, because that's what kind of made me realize that the people that I was spending time with, maybe that had to change, or maybe, I had to start switching up who I was around or switching up who I hung out with or who I surrounded myself with. So, yeah, definitely in my past, I've noticed in many areas of my life, like I mentioned, health and nutrition, just my lifestyle, from partying to a businesswoman, and my career goals were all impacted. So, yeah.
So I know you mentioned in that last point that you kind of woke up one day and was just like, wow, this is not exactly the path I want to be going down or should be going down. And I want to talk about that a little bit too, is, you know, were they always like one big wake up call where you just woke up and said, wow, or was it certain people you kind of gradually knew? Because I know for me, um, I've had a time in my life where I did wake up similar to you and just be like, what am I doing? Why am I with these people? And that was kind of in the more recent years. But in college, there were a couple bad apples, as I call them, where I noticed over a period of time where I was just like, wow, like this one person is infecting my lifestyle and infecting the way that I think and do things. And, I noticed that one person over a period of time. So, for anyone who's watching, how do you think we can have them, get those people out once they notice there is a bad apple or they notice the whole group is bad? Because it can be one or the other. It could just be one that infects the group, or it can be the whole group itself is maybe not conducive to growth. So what advice would you give someone if they notice that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple approaches. I think if it's one person, then I don't think it's a bad idea to, consult with other people in your friend group and say, like, has it just been me that's been noticing this, or is everyone noticing this? And then, kind of just have almost like a collective agreement or a collective discussion on, is it this person? Am I just imagining this, or am I crazy? And 99% of the time you are not crazy. Other people see it too. Maybe they just have not had the courage to speak up about it. And at that point, if it's a majority vote, I guess you could say, then I think you should address that person and just tell them, like, set your boundaries and just say, hey, like, this behavior that you're doing right now is not cool, and this is how we expect, our friends to treat us. So collectively, just, we just notice that this is what's going on. Like, is there anything going on? Because sometimes, I think it is people who maybe just are unsure of their own life path as well. But if they're obviously, like an abusive person or just a hindrance to your group, then, just make sure that you have the courage to speak up. And I don't want to say kick them out of your group, but kick them out of your group. Um, that's just not good behavior to be around. It just brings not only yourself down, but everyone around you. And you don't want them to rub off on anyone else. But there also have been times where I just noticed friend groups who, were just not good for my growth. And I think part of it too is once I was leaving high school, I had already known that I was going to college. I already got my acceptance letters, and I wanted to, just enjoy my last few months of being in my hometown and my last summer of being in my hometown. And I didn't have really a lot of responsibilities. So, I identified more with a party girl or someone who'd go out. So I think that kind of attracted those type of people into my life. Um, but I think to kind of distance myself from that, I just started changing who I was internally. I just changed who I identified with. I know you talked about this in one of your videos, and it really related to me, because once I started telling myself, like, no, I'm a businesswoman, I'm motivated, I'm driven, I'm healthy, I just started switching up those behaviors, going to the gym more. So when people from that friend group would ask me, hey, do you want to go to the bar? I'd be like, oh, actually, I'm at the gym right now. Or, hey, do you want to go day drinking? I'd be like, oh, actually, I'm at the library studying right now. And then slowly over time, they notice a change in me. So it's like they almost started inviting me out less, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing because, they weren't bad people. It's just that some of their behaviors and some of their lifestyle choices weren't exactly the same as like where I knew that I needed to be at that point in my life. So it's almost that changing my behavior changed who responded to me and who was allowed or who was attracted into my life. So it kind of all starts with you, but you also can't be afraid to just break off ties if, it's an abusive friendship or an abusive relationship or multiple abusive relationships. And that's, not just physical, that's like mental as well.
And that's such a good point. And I actually want to elaborate on this even further with what you said. And I'm going to really, take what you said and go with it. So, there's three scenarios. I want you guys to look at it. There's, let's say you versus another friend, and it's just the two of you in that relationship. And maybe the other person is just really negative all the time. Maybe they went through a breakup and they just are very, very negative, being mean, making fun of others, or whatever they're going through, and that negativity is rubbing off on you. If it's a one-on-one friendship and relationship, don't be afraid to walk away from it. I know it can be hard, but like Mary said, just take some initial steps of just distancing yourself, maybe, choosing other activities or doing something else, and limiting your amount of time with that one-on-one person. And second scenario, if it's someone in your friend group, let's say you have a collective group like Mary was saying, and there's just that one person who's kind of rude, kind of mean, making wrong decisions, embarrassing the group, then as a collective, as a group, you would want to sit down, like Mary said, and, talk about that and maybe approach that person so that you can get them out of the group. Because one bad person brings bad energy to everyone, no matter, who's in the room. Energy is infectious. So we want to be really careful who we allow to be a part of that energy. And then the last scenario is that if you notice and you wake up that you are in a bad group and you've got just everyone doing wrong things, and you realize, like, okay, I can't be a part of this anymore. If I keep being around an entire group of bad people, I first of all am acting like that and being like that. I need to make a change. So that's, where you make the change and decide that you need to change your identity of who you are, who you associate with, and, change yourself. And that's, like Mary was saying, how she stopped going out and started going to, working out or going to the library. And as she changed her identity, she then had a new crowd and met more people. So with those three scenarios, those are maybe some steps you guys can take based on where you are at in that. And so Mary, I think a lot of people will want to know, like, sometimes it's someone they maybe grew up with or a long-term friend that they had or someone through college, and cutting that person out can actually be very hard, very, very difficult. So how can they go about that and reducing the relationship without totally cutting that person off? Because like I said, it could be someone they've known for 15 years, 10 years, and they might be afraid to let that person go completely.
Yeah, I think, definitely that's where I was at one point. These people were still my friends in certain ways, but a lot of the activities that they were participating in, it was just a bit too much of that one activity, too much going out, not enough going out and going to the library and going to the gym and eating healthy, because too much of anything is never a good thing. But one thing that I remember one of my ex-boyfriends, his mom actually told me is you should have like different friend buckets almost. He had an older sister and she shared that she would share with the older sister, oh, like, have different buckets of friends, have your Sunday brunch friends, have your, journal club friends, maybe you guys all do journal prompts and share them together, or your educational friends, where you go to the library together, or your career friends where you bounce off business ideas. Because I think sometimes it can be really difficult finding that one friend who meets all those buckets, and you don't want to have, you don't want to be lonely, and, you have different friends or different buckets. So I think almost categorizing them or putting them in different buckets is a good way to make sure that you are yourself are holding your own energy, but also making time for these friends who maybe, there are good qualities about them, but some behaviors are just not as positive. So I think separating them into different buckets and then making time for each bucket accordingly is just a good way to separate that.
I love, love, love that idea of the friend bucket, the concept. That's something I kind of do without actually realizing I do that or calling it that, and having that name that I know to associate it with makes it a lot easier to say, like, okay, these are my vacation friends, and these ones
Hmm.
are my downtown going to the club friends, and these ones are my self growth friends, these ones are my YouTube friends, these ones are, and so on. And having that category and the buckets that you can put each person in actually really, really helps, because it's not that you need to exactly kick someone out of your life completely. Unless they're, abusive or not a good friend, then definitely get them out of your life. But maybe it's, let's say you're always hanging out with the party girl or the party guy, and you're realizing that by being around them 5 days a week isn't good for you, and it's steering you in the wrong direction from your work, from getting goals completed. So what you can do is maybe say, okay, Mr. Party girl or party guy, you're going to be my Friday night friend, and I'll see you on Friday nights and only Friday nights, and maybe the occasional holiday where we do something together. And, my self growth friends, I'll hang out with you guys and talk to you guys Monday through Friday because those are my work days and those are the days I want to advance. And then, you have your vacation friends that you call when you go on a trip. And by doing that, it kind of keeps your life balanced, which I think is a great way for people to, separate and not get too overconsumed in the wrong group either. So, okay, so the next one I actually want to ask you is, we talked a lot about environment of the people you're around, categorizing them, how to separate if you notice you're in the wrong place. But what about someone's living environment? I mean, your inner circle is very important, but what about, the inner circle of where you live, your home, your apartment, your car, everything?
Yeah, definitely. I think, you're not just going to be a product of the people that you're around, you're going to be a product of your environment as well. So if your environment is just very, chaotic and unorganized and unclean, then you're going to see that, shift your mood, and then it's just going to shift, the actions that you take to building the life that you want or the life that you don't want. Sometimes I don't think that you realize, I'm creating a life that I don't want, as I was when I was hanging around people who were partying a little bit too much or more than I needed to be partying at that point in my life. Um, so I think, just having a clean home environment and having a clean vehicle environment, um, for my example, I was driving the car that my parents bought me in high school, and, it was my first car, and I, treated it all right, but probably not the best because I wasn't paying for it. So I would let my friends eat inside of it. I would let, my brother borrow it, and he would, throw his basketball stuff in the back seat. And, along with that was like, dirty shoes. And, I just would take sharp turns and not really care about it. So when I finally upgraded my car, after graduation and I noticed that it was so much cleaner inside, I just felt a lot better when I was driving to work or to the office. And I felt better when I was running errands. And it really just lifted my mood. So I think there's just subtle changes that you don't realize impact how you're acting as a person, but they do make a big difference.
I think that's actually a really good point, Mary, where you talk about, your home environment and your car environment. I can definitely relate to that. And I've actually noticed a change in the environments of my friends and my inner circles as my environment with my home, with my car changed and got better. And when, I started being more cleanly at home, it then motivated my other friends to be more cleanly at home as well as with their cars. When I noticed I was in a place of not really caring about my car or what was in the back seat or how clean it was, I also noticed the friends around me were kind of similar. And with that similarity, they were also a little dirty in their home environment or, maybe didn't put the laundry away or things like that. And, you know, that environment of your home, your car, your bedroom, all these things have an effect on your brain, effect on your mind, and the clarity of your mind. If you're waking up and your bedroom's cluttered, and your laundry's everywhere, and things just aren't put away, you don't start the day on the right foot. So then your mental clarity is a little foggy as well. And that's just a subconscious relation that we have to things. So this is the same thing with your car. If your car is, dirty and cluttered and you never take care of it and you never clean it, it again is a subconscious thing in the back of your mind of your own mental clarity, your own emotional clarity. Because I know on the days I feel my best, I think my best, I talk my best, I dress my best, I don't want to get into a dirty, vehicle with mud all over it and, French fries in it. So, you know,
Yeah.
I want to be in a car that's, perfectly washed, no crumbs, no nothing, no clutter in the car, completely clean, a house that's clean. And when I do that, when my own personal environment's cleaner, I perform better at work. And then my friends see it and they are, inspired to be clean, have a clean house, clean environment. And then when their environment's clean, then their clarity and their mentality is clean. And so I've noticed as I changed, I guess, my identity to being a more very organized person, clean person, I also attracted more friends who were that way as well in their personal environments. And then through us both having clean personal environments, the clarity between us as friends is better. It was more clean as well. So I know it's kind of putting a few points together, but I really see how environment of, where you're living, driving, thinking correlates along with your inner circle and your friend group as well. Because let's say, you're very clean, Mary, you're very organized. imagine if one of your best friends had loads of stuff in their car all the time, and their car was always muddy and dirty, and their bedroom and everything was always cluttered, and it it just wouldn't, how would that affect you if you had a friend who was that way?
Right. It would definitely, start to rub off on you, if not in the habits, just in your mood overall and how you feel. And it would
Hmm.
almost change your perception on them a little bit, I think. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think, the environment of your inner circle, their energy, the way they treat you is very important, but it's also very important how they start their day, how they, keep their lives and the cleanliness of that. So it's something, as you guys are going forward, as you guys are maybe changing your group, maybe making, alterations of who you're around and what you're around. Also, notice the behaviors of the people you're around as well, because those behaviors will rub off on you, even if it's not directly as, maybe they're dirty and then you all of a sudden become dirty. But let's say, they're don't really care about much, they're kind of cluttered, then maybe in your mind you'll say, well, it doesn't really matter if I don't put my laundry away today. It doesn't really
Mhm.
matter. And then one thing after another, it will snowball into more.
Yeah. I like what you said, that snowball. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Mhm.
it's, that inner circle is so much more than just, if they go out and party or if they're, action oriented, but it's an encompassing of the person, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, it all kind of ties together, and you might not notice, but one little thing adds up to another small thing. And that's kind of where the snowball comes in. But on the contrary, if one positive thing turns into one more positive thing, then it's like you're just going to pile on more positivity in your life. And they all kind of encompass each other from your internal environment to your external environment.
So let's say we have a listener who has maybe, a friend who has everything together, very clean, very well kept. They're on top of their work, and maybe that specific friend doesn't have it all together yet, but they want to. They want to make that change. They don't want to burden their friend with their messiness or, what it is they're doing that they want to change. What advice would you give that person, if they realize, okay, I want to be more organized, I want to be more like this friend who has it together? What advice would you give them?
I would say use your resources. I mean, I think, you know, us growing up, I think, the internet was pretty prominent, but I think, I don't want to say kids, but teens growing up now, they have such an advantage because everything is digital and everything's online. You have so many resources with the internet, from podcasts to YouTube videos to digital books, free resources on Pinterest, even Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts, even. Whatever it might be, there's always accounts that are sharing positivity and sharing, free most of the time tips for teens. So it's like, I would say use your resources, do your research, and that will spark a conversation with your friend. Like, hey, I was reading this article, about how to best clean your house in the most efficient and eco friendly way. Like, do you do any of these things? And we'll start a conversation among your friend versus, kind of asking your friend to pull you along or to push you along or to, raise you up to where you need to be. You're kind of doing the work yourself. And then in turn, you're relating to them versus asking them for a handout or a hand up, if you could say.
And I think that's a really good idea. I'm actually going to give you guys my example. There was a group of friends that I was a part of. I would say relatively recently, and they were a lot of fun. We always had a good time, but we always went out all the time, every weekend, and I had such a great time, but it wasn't conducive to my growth. And so I had an idea in my mind of, okay, if I wanted to be successful and I wanted to, accomplish many great things, what types of friends would be in that friend group? If I wanted to be a successful businesswoman, who would I hang out with? And, in my mind, I came back with the idea of people who are organized, people who are, only limiting their time of going out to maybe once a week and, really spending their time working during the weeknights and work weekdays, really trying to push ahead on their projects and learn more. And so what I did was I started to change my identity to that and become that person. And when I started watching YouTube videos every morning to educate myself and start my morning that way and make my own home organized every day and make my bed first thing every single morning and make sure everything was clean and well kept, then I attracted a new set of friends that were all that way. And instead of it being such a difficult switch from, partying every weekend to all of a sudden, boop, I'm in this group, I changed myself so that way when I met friends like that, I would become a match to them and not kind of deter them in any way of my old habits and old behaviors. Yeah, so that was something I know, Mary, you and I connected actually back in, what was it, January of 2019.
Hmm.
So I was kind of when I was like coming on the tail end, coming out of, the partying all the time, that group, and moving into the self-growth, expanding my consciousness type phase. And that's when Mary and I got a lot closer. We were working on law of attraction and self-development. And then I was able to discuss, with you, Mary, on, how do I go about this? Or how can I become better this way or expand my mind this way? And what we did was share articles with each other and, different videos or topics and actually develop ourselves from the old maybe circle of friends to now a new circle of friends that are people that are all on the same journey with the same
Hmm.
visions.
Yeah, so I think kind of what we talked about, we didn't realize it, but we applied it in our own lives. So
Hmm. So I guess, Mary, to wrap it up, what is one major key you would give to anyone listening to this or anyone going through, maybe being a part of the wrong group, wanting to change their group? What is the number one advice you would give to somebody?
I would say don't be afraid to be alone or be your own friend group temporarily or, for an extended period of time if your friend group currently is not serving you. I think a lot of people fear like, oh, I'm going to be so lonely or I'm going to, not have anyone to hang out with or anyone to do stuff with. But it's like, you don't really need people to do stuff with. And I feel like once you have the courage to let go of people who aren't serving you, then better people will come in.
That's actually a great point. I'm going to take that one step further too, is, you know, like Mary said, do not be afraid to be on your own. Once you find the ability to be on your own, you create a whole nother level of power for yourself because there are so many people in the world who don't know how to be alone, you know, can't even spend one day by themselves. And those are the people who are always dependent. When you're able to learn to find the confidence to be by yourself, find activities that you love yourself, you become so strong and powerful in ways that nobody can, relate to you on. And if for some reason, let's say part of your inner circle is, let's say you're in a bad relationship, a bad boyfriend, a bad girlfriend, do not be afraid to let that person go. If you know that they're not conducive to your growth, you know that they maybe are bringing you down or it's overall just not like a healthy relationship, let them go and make room for a new environment. You might make some new friends. You might make, a new connection at work of people that are actually
Hmm.
very more beneficial to you. And so I know sometimes, like in a relationship standpoint, that person is usually one of your inner five and they're very, very important. And I've had times where when I was with that person, I knew that they weren't helping me in my best light or maybe dragging me down. And I was so afraid to let it go because of being
Right.
alone. And so if you guys notice that that's you, don't be afraid. And like Mary said, find that inner power and inner strength to find your path by yourself because you will find a new group and they will be so beneficial to you and teach you so many things that you don't currently know in this state. And so that's like the last point that I want to say is my advice of what I can give you guys. And Mary, let me know if you have anything to say to this one. Is that if you're stuck in the same place, right, today, and you're always around the same group, and that group is not growing, they're not expanding their mind, they're not chasing success, they're not getting where you want to go, then a year from now, you will be in the same place that you are. It's very, very hard to
Mm-hmm.
grow on your own if you're with a group of people who do not want to grow themselves. So if you notice that your group is kind of doing the same pattern over and over and over again, maybe move them into a different bucket and then find a new group who can help motivate you and help push you, because the last thing you want to do is be in the same place next year that you are today. Find people around you who can push you and motivate you and expand your mind and teach you things that you don't already know.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice or key takeaway for everyone. So good job, April.
Thank you. And I know, like, when Mary and I reconnected, that really helped me a lot. I'm so grateful for your friendship, Mary, because you are, always pushing for success, always pushing for your next project, and, hustling all the time. And that's really motivated me to be more successful and hustle as well. And, you know, I'm just giving you guys living advice from what I've experienced. I'm sure Mary, can say the same. When we made changes to our friend groups, it really helped us make the changes to get where we wanted to go. So don't be afraid if that's you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks so much, April. I can say the same things about you. We really just help motivate each other, and it's such a great friendship. So I hope everyone who is watching can find the similar or the same friendships or the same goals in their friends, or just people, who really uplift you.
I agree. Thank you guys for watching. Like we said, when you change yourself into who you want to become, those people will be attracted to you and you will find them. So if you have any questions, you guys need any advice, you want to reach out, send us a comment below. You can email me at mentor@selfmasterymentor.com. If you want to check out Mary's page, it'll be in my suggested pages, Trademark Your Life. Mary, if you put this on yours, I think I'm in your suggested pages as well. So there's a way to reach out to both of us. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope you guys enjoyed this and know the importance of your inner circle and how it affects you. Keep growing, find a great circle that's positive and uplifting, and I promise you will succeed in everything you do. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. If you guys have not subscribed to our pages, please go ahead and do so right now. Please also hit that thumbs up if you guys like this collab, and we will talk to you very soon.